All right. Welcome everybody to the first iteration of the SUSE QE Tools Workshop. Let me check first, can everybody see for now my webcam picture and hear me? Say hi.
Yeah,
Yay.
right.
Yes, works.
Cool, thank you. All right, I will also share my screen or individual windows over Jitsi. So please also confirm then that you can see that accordingly. I will start on one page, switching to the browser window. So please confirm that you can see the browser window.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So for a start, because I can see and I'm happy to see that there are some members outside the group of SUSE QA engineers here, I would like to show you that what the team is and what we do. We call ourselves the SUSE QE Tools, and you can find the description for the team on Progress Opensuse org projects QA. And what we have in our responsibility is that we want to provide the easiest way to provide complete quality for our software or for your software. And we do that by providing free software system level testing solution stack, which is where the most prominent product is openqa, but there are also many other tools surrounding that in a bigger ecosystem. And then of course there's integration with other services like the Open Build service. The main topic which I would like to present today is a feature which we call auto-review and openqa-investigate. And this already shows a nice integration of openqa as a software itself with some tools around that. So let's start with two web pages. There is openqa opensuse.org, and we have this auto-review feature enabled there, and I would like to present it there. The same feature is enabled on openqa SUSE.de, so in principle everything that I show here also works on the SUSE internal instance openqa SUSE.de. If you have some specific questions where it differs, then also we can discuss that. First I would like to present a bit, and then we are open the round to questions. So this is the main openqa service instance. This is the main entry page, and from there I will start to show some jobs. What I would also like to show is mainly the documentation for the auto-review feature, which is available in the README page of a repository which is called OS Autos Scripts. So that already shows that this is not the main openqa repository, but a supporting repository. It's called scripts because it's actually a selection of multiple simple, smaller, independent scripts. And there's one section here which is called auto-review. So I'm only presenting it here and shortly walking over that. If you want to know more details, then the documentation is available as a reference. Now the idea for auto-review is that we can automatically detect known issues in openqa jobs. In a daily work, it can be expected that tests fail for reasons that we know about. Maybe it's a bug that we already know from another product or another version, or maybe it's actually a thing that we see from time to time, like some sporadic issues. Or it could be issues which are really new and we want to separate these two categories. And of course, openqa already has a big support built in with so-called label carryover. So if a job consistently fails in one test module, then we can carry around an issue like a bug reference, and I can show that. But then there are the other cases where an issue might appear in different job groups, architectures and such, but it's still the same issue, and we can detect it by looking into the log file for certain search terms and then marking the job accordingly, and additionally providing the possibility to automatically re-trigger tests where it makes sense. For example, in case of known sporadic issues where we know that re-triggering is a valid workaround. The second block would be openqa-investigate. So the idea is there that we can do an automatic investigation with a failure analysis in openqa. So in cases where we can assume that this is really a new issue, an unknown issue, an issue where we say a test fails, but we don't know the reason yet why it fails. We want to know, could it be a product regression, could it be a test regression? There we use what we called openqa-investigate, which then again consists of simple scripts. And both auto-review and openqa-investigate can be combined. And this is shown here as a simple example with a shell script which we pipe together. The idea is that, well, if a test fails and we don't have a label carryover because it's an issue where we cannot easily track where this comes from or if this is known, first we call openqa-auto-review to try to take a look in the log file, do we find any common search expression? If we do, then we can mark it with auto-review based on tickets. If we do not yet know the issue, if there's no regex which matches, then we call openqa-investigate, which triggers automatic investigation jobs. And these automatic investigation jobs, they won't magically fix the problem, but they can provide additional information to find out what could be the reason for the failure and what could be additional details in case you want to handle the failure. Would it be worthwhile to implement some kind of workaround of internal retriggering? Is it likely to be a test regression? Is it likely to be a product regression? Okay, all this is done by using openqa hook scripts. So what openqa does is it can be configured, and this is where I explained is that openqa Opensuse.org and openqa SUSE QE are configured in this way, and everybody setting up your own openqa instance, you can configure it in a similar way. That whenever a job fails or incompletes or reaches a final state, like whenever it is done, then we can call scripts, like shell scripts, like the ones that are shown in above. And this is what is done, and then we can mark the jobs accordingly or retrigger and such. Okay, so before I go to the main instance, and I will show jobs here and I will show examples and I will look it up, are there any questions or comments or hints so far? All right. Yeah. So we can start from multiple angles. Let's try the following. And because this is like, you know, the live view, I'm not exactly sure what is the current state, but we can still take a look. So I'm taking a look into the latest Opensuse Tumbleweed snapshot. That one was just triggered some hours ago, or about 1 hour ago. So many jobs are still unfinished, which we can see here. There are many scheduled, many planned, and not yet done. I'm going to filter this. So there's this filter box here, and we can filter, for example, I only want to know if they're failed or incomplete, and we can see if they're any reasonable already. So what we can see here, this is basically, well, these are the jobs that already fail for reasons that we already know. I would like to, let's say, give a complete repetition and summary for the people that are not there yet. So yeah, this is a failed OpenQA test, and it has this yellow flash icon afterwards. If we go into the details, then we can find that there is a ticket reference and the comment says automatic takeover. If we can take a look in the history, then we can see that, well, the scenario failed sometimes in different places, but in this case, the issue had been known in before, it was referenced in before, for example, in the previous snapshots. And so this is just using the OpenQA internal feature of automatically carrying over an issue. This is like the old way. And the same is the case for all these upgrade jobs, which show this little bug icon. So someone just copy-pasted a comment from a Bugzilla reference into the job scenario, and that's taken over. Now this one, it only has this little comment icon. So let's take a look there. And what we can see here is a comment from GeekoTest. GeekoTest is a bot, and it says automatic investigation jobs. So this is already one example where we say, well, whatever was the reason for the failure, it was not known in before. Let's take a look into the history why that could be the case, and we see that okay, so there was an incomplete in before, and there was another failure some days ago, but mainly the job scenario was green, and now it fails in update package kit KDE. And I don't know what the reason is why that suddenly fails, and maybe nobody knows. At least we don't have that issue tracked in this scenario with any kind of ticket or bug. This is why openqa-investigate then automatically triggers jobs. It says automatic investigation jobs. Now what jobs does it trigger? Well, a common question that people ask is like, maybe it's just sporadic, maybe it's just flaky, so let me just try to re-trigger, okay? I mean, if you do that every day, it can be tedious and it should be avoided, but here the bot does it to check, can the issue be reproduced? This is why the first job is a simple retry, okay? Be aware that this is not the same as clicking the retry button here, because this job will not be tracked as the Tumbleweed validation test. So if the retry works, it doesn't mean that suddenly the scenario turns out to be green. It's like in parallel we trigger that job. So we can take a look, and then depending on the result of this retry job, which is still scheduled, we would see if that is stable or not. The second example, the second job is investigate last good tests with a long hash ref. Now this one is re-triggering the test, but it is using the version of the test code from the last good. So the last time that worked, let's check again, this was a day ago in the last snapshot, but test changed, the moon phase changed, the product changed, the network changed, maybe it's running on a different machine. We don't know what could be the reason for any of these. So it's also triggering the tests against the last good tests. This is this exact git hash, which we can know from the job details. And depending on that, if that would pass or fail, we would have an indication, could it be a test regression? So let's say if the retry fails, if the current job fails, but last good test works, it's likely that it's a test regression. But in this case, I also would expect that the auto investigation jobs are not yet finished, because they are triggered with a rather high penalty number to not interfere with any product validation tests that are normally triggered or manually triggered one. And the third one is last good build. So as we have seen the last Tumbleweed snapshot was green. So yeah, let's just re-trigger against the last Tumbleweed snapshot. And then we see that result here. And the fourth one is a combination of both. So it's last goods test and last build. So we trigger for the last known good state and the last good product. So now first question or next question to you as an audience, who has an idea, why do we also trigger for last good test and build? What could be left as failure reasons?
The moon phase?
Yes, exactly. The moon phase could be the reason, or it could be network or the worker. Yeah. So let's assume that, okay, depending on the results, we can have some indication. Okay. I would look up an example of an older job where we already have some results and then see how that could look like, as well as look for auto-review examples. But in the meantime, questions by you. Marita?
Yes, I have a question. So if you go back to the detailed, would you mind to go back to the detailed tab here?
Yeah.
So here, this is red. What does the red color now indicate? That the first original one has failed, and all this kind of nice scripting that you said that might cause to a green test case is not shown here. Is this the original one?
Yes, this is the original job. So
okay, and I have now a question. Exactly. If I go to next and previous results, what do I see there?
Yeah, in next and previous results, first you see this little icon which says C and L, and that one expands to the current, and I'm not sure in the shared screen. For me, there's a pop-up which says current and last job. So this result actually reflects the very same result. Okay, so this is still showing the failure of the job that we look at. What we see in the list below is the history of previous jobs in the same scenario. What we call the same scenario is jobs that match all the same parameters, like it's a Tumbleweed test, it's for x86 64 on the net installer, the KDE on machine 64-bit, but potentially for an older build.
Yeah, that's clear to me. I'm just wondering if your scripts, you describe now 3 or 4 different scenarios, trying out what might be the use case for the failing test case. I'm just wondering if I look here at this tab and at the details tab, what I see there. So I see there still the original first run. So
yeah, right. Good point.
And how do I see these 3 other ones?
Right. So there are simple links to openqa test. Now the status does not show directly, but what you can do is, or what I do is I open the tabs, and then already in the tab preview we see this light blue color, means that all these 4 job results are not yet finished. They are still scheduled because this is a fresh snapshot. Yeah,
that's okay, fine for me. Was just wondering because I look at the history in these tabs occasionally as in my role as a project manager, and if I do not know what I see there anymore, I'm pretty lost.
Exactly, good point.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Then it's clear. I still see what I used to see before.
Yeah. No. This is all unchanged. The only thing that we talk about is one additional comment. Okay, this is the only change. Right. To explain that next and previous results, I went from that latest result to an older result, and now we can see here current. So this means the job that I'm currently looking at is this one in the history. There are older jobs and there are more recent jobs. And the most recent job is the one where we started from, which is this one, the latest one. Okay, so this might serve as a good example, because here in comments, we also see that 6 days ago, there was a failure in another module, so likely something unrelated, and we see 4 job results here. And if I open all the results, then I can see that there had been 4 green check marks. Okay, now who wants to make a guess? If the retry, the last good test, the last good build, and last good test and build succeed, and there are 4 green check marks in investigation, but the original jobs still failed, what could have been the reason for the failure? And repeating what had been said in before is allowed.
Infrastructure issues?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we retry, we try the old tests, we try the last good build, and everything of that doesn't lead to a failure. It could be the infrastructure or, again, the moon phase. Is it worth to fix that or not? I would say in general, yes, but we have different ways how to fix that, and auto-review would be one way to go. Okay, I could look up another example for investigate if you're interested, or we could look for auto-review examples. Now, what are you interested in right now?
Might I ask a question before?
Of course.
Oliver, those tests are automatically scheduled, or are they scheduled once you click on them?
Those tests are automatically scheduled whenever the job finishes. So this job finished 6 days ago. This was, let's say, late in the German evening. So likely someone for Tumbleweed wasn't even reviewing the results at this time. And the investigation jobs were triggered to, they were scheduled automatically. And at best, let's say, in the next morning, all of these results are ready. Yeah.
So it's perhaps a good thing to keep in mind that every failed test will trigger 4 additional runs of the same tests.
Up to 4 failed tests, only in the case when the issue is not already known and marked by other means. But then, yes, that's the case.
Oliver, what happens if one of those, what happens specifically if the retry test then succeed or fails? Is this somehow backpropagated to the automatic investigation job comment, or is this manual though?
Yeah, this is an important comment. I have stated that in before. There is no direct impact on the original job. The idea is really that these investigation jobs, they just provide an additional data point for information. Okay, so they don't influence the original result.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
And well, two side effects are. One side effect is, yes, there's a comment. Okay, so if there are review workflows, and I've already heard from some people that their review workflows was like they were just looking for the presence of a comment to regard the job as reviewed or not. So in that case, they would, let's say, confuse the automatic investigation jobs with the meaning of, okay, the job was properly reviewed. Yeah? And the second impact could be that, of course, we do trigger more jobs. So yeah, it could influence the schedule. They're all running with a penalty, so they should not interfere that much or at all, but it could still happen if the investigation jobs also takes some hours, because the upgrade scenario takes so long, then that investigation job would also take some hours. One more hand raised by Maite.
Yeah, and if you look at the dashboard and you look at the black cycle, the circle next to the job group name, this one that seems to be now completely useless to me. I mean, if you run this for every job group, you will always have a fully labeled test run, right? Do I get this right? I mean,
I would not call it labeled, because let me show one example here. In the filter, there is a to-do query, and this is what I was aware is used by reviewers. If I click that to-do, what we see here is that Still the
Yeah,
jobs which only...
that's fine. But sorry to interrupt me, but if you look at the dashboard, well, if I look at the dashboard, and I was, until yesterday, I was assuming when there is this label, somebody has looked into this, and with somebody, I mean a person. Now it's kind of
correct.
useless.
Yes. And
I mean, I cannot assume that somebody has properly reviewed a build. It's just that a bot has run. And you can enable it for everything and everywhere, then it's useless. Or do I get it wrong? Or
no, this is correct. And actually, I would like to change the black certificate icon for that reason. Either reflect what it was in before by not writing a comment or marking the comment as, just a bot comment, or coming up with something which is distinguishing between, there was something going on for every job, or there was a proper bug review.
Yeah.
Because actually what I see now is that if I just take a look at the to-do flag here, then this really shows me, okay, all the jobs that maybe have a comment, but they are not, they are not fully reviewed. We just have some informational data point, but a human still needs to decide, should we release Tumbleweed despite these errors or not, okay? So these are the important, this is the important information that is not reflected here because the black certificate icon already shows up. So yeah, you are right. This is a side effect which is something that we should change to consolidate between the to-do flag and the black certificate icon here.
I totally agree on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. So now let me take a look for auto-review comments. If you have a question in the meantime, then you can bring them up. I will just shortly take a look in the database if we can find good examples. Okay, so this is one example for auto-review. So again, as a short reminder, auto-review should, whenever a job is incomplete or failed, it can take a look, and there's no carryover, okay, then it can take a look into the log files, or actually the log files, the worker log and auto-ins log. And when we take a look into the log file, then we can look for a regex, a regular expression or a search term. And if we find that search term, then we will mark the job accordingly. So this is one example. The job is incomplete. All incomplete jobs have a reason which should give a good indication of what is likely the reason for the problem. So let's say this is migrate to file fed, had been running for more than 240 seconds. This is likely a product regression which we have on our worker machines. The performance since the upgrade to Opensuse Leap 15.2 has decreased, so taking snapshots sometimes runs into a timeout. And that can fail, from the openqa job perspective, that can fail more or less randomly. It could be on any worker whenever a scenario fails. If we take a look into the history, then we see that reflected that, this incompleted, and it was reproducing sometimes on the same machine, and then suddenly in the same build, it's passing again, but trust me, it's not really fixed. Okay, so what happens here? The job incompletes, and then this triggers auto-review. And then what auto-review does is, again, a bot is looking into progress OpenSUSE.org for all tickets with a special format. So this is the subject line of the ticket. And here we can already see that it says auto-review : and then a search expression. Like, I know that this is a bug which happens on Linux 5.3. It was not happening on older Linux kernel versions or kernel regression. And then if the log file matches the search term, then we mark the job with this ticket. So we also have a proper ticket reference here. And this is different in before. Remember, there are bug refs, or in general ticket references in openqa. There are labels, which have another icon, seldomly used, and there are plain comments. Automatic investigation jobs, they just post plain comments because just an additional information detail. But auto-review is meant to support the reviewing by labeling the job already when we have a matching search expression. Additionally, there is this optional retry, and that means that this job was automatically retriggered by the bot. So no human needs to click the retry button for one of these Moonphase infrastructure issues. So it was cloned as this one, and as we saw in the history, it took some time where the job retried multiple times, which was correct because it was always hitting the worker which was suffering from the same bug until it hit openqa worker 4, which was fine, and then it was passed. So, how do the tickets look like? Well, we can take a look in progress opensuse.org, and let me simply look for any open tickets in the complete progress opensuse.org instance which have a subject auto_review : and then we can find that currently we have, oops, we don't need to group. Oh, we can group by project maybe. And then we can see that currently we have 48 tickets, and I'm glad to see that this is already used in more than just the openqa project. And all these tickets, they have in their subject line auto_review : and then some search term. Some have retry and some don't. And how do you make sure that a ticket matches the problem? Simple, you just put a regex. In the most simple case, it's like a clear search term in the subject line of the ticket, and whenever a new job fails and there's no carryover, then the ticket will be picked up as label. So, questions for that? Who's using auto-review already, may I ask? No one here? Okay. Additional comments is that normally a simple search expression works fine. For example, this would be one example where the error expression was only happening really in this way: external encoder not accepting data. We knew that if we see that term, then it's exactly that ticket. In other cases, it can be a bit more generic. For example, there's the error message, unable to establish IPMI. Well, that can happen in general, and having one ticket for all doesn't really work. So this is specified with alternative. This only happens for two machines, which is Sonic and Tails. So this is, let's say, the most simple form of a regex with optional group matching, which you can see here. The third example is a multi-line regex. Because we use extended Perl regexes, what we can do is use something like this here with this $S. That means that we can match on one line, and this one happens actually at the beginning of a very long file running on openqa-64, so only on that machine. And then we walk over the complete log file until we see considering VNC stalled, and then even some more lines later, there's nothing to read. So with this way, we can ensure that we only match on that specific case and not any more generic cases. Okay. More questions or comments or ideas for improvements for auto review? Anything I should repeat for clarification maybe, or show some more examples?
So I'm not entirely sure how would auto review be. Would this be something for me as a maintainer of a single test? Could I use that?
Yes.
In some?
Let's say, for example, that you have a test scenario, let's call it, I don't know, vagrant or something, and you want to run
God damn it.
vagrant tests for x86 as well as AH64. Okay? And maybe you are aware of an issue that can happen because, you know, it's related to some instability in the core software or in the test code, but it's not really architecture dependent. Or maybe you have the same scenario for Tumbleweed, for Leap, for maintenance tests. Then it could be really helpful to use auto review, because you would just come up with a ticket once, add the according regex in the subject line, and then that ticket would be used for all different products and versions, and you only have to do the work once. You don't need to review like all the different job groups and see if the same error is there the same way. Make sense?
Yeah, but if I don't do the reviewing part, since I think that does Dimstar.
Well, then he is using that, okay, or he can use that, and the helpful thing is also that this works both ways. If I take a look into one ticket, I would like to look up an example. No, this. Yeah, this is a good example. So first, with the regex, we have a clear search term that we can also look for manually. So, you know, maybe you want to fix the issue and you want to know, like, okay, what should I look for? What's the way to reproduce? You already know from this regex that by definition, because a bot uses that, you can trust it that this regex will show you reproducing issues. If you can't find that issue, then it cannot be reproduced anymore. So you can take a look into your log files for the very same regex. This is also supported by what I have documented on this GitHub repo for Auto scripts where I describe auto review. My recommendation is that for a section steps to reproduce, we can actually follow, we can use this template. Yes, this is the same text for all auto review tickets, because we can just call openqa query for job label, which is a script coming from the same repository, looking for that ticket reference, and then this will show you all jobs where this issue recently reproduced. Okay, so yeah, so you can find out, like, does it actually still happen for AH64 or for Tumbleweed or for Leap or for updates and such.
Okay, thanks.
More thoughts, questions, or ideas?
Oliver, it's just more a thought into the future, but one of the things that I as a test developer would like to have at some point would be a method of getting notifications about my own failing tests. Perhaps this is not something that is integrated in the review process, but just wanted to plant that seed here because Dan's question was actually, I think, targeting in that direction as well.
Yes, that's a good point. And with auto review, I was trying to address that in the same way. Of course, initially, someone has to do the work to say either, you can do one of two things, which I can think of. Either you have, let's say, generic tests, and someone like Dimstar in the Tumbleweed review process would create a specific ticket and say, like, this one is for Felix, yeah? Or it could be that it's actually a very specific test scenario, and whenever it fails, we would always ask you anyway. Okay, mm-hmm. I assume you're thinking of the second case more, yeah, right?
Somehow, yes. It's more that I'm maintaining some tests, especially on Opensuse, where I'm not checking that every day, and failures in that test that then tend to be forgotten, and that I find a bit unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay. So I know the biggest problem I see, and this is similar in the domain of Open Build Service, is in Open Build Service I'm experiencing that myself as a drive-by package maintainer, that I'm receiving emails for builds that fail, and there are so many different cases of why something could fail. Like on the OBS worker, the file system is corrupted because the worker is running a new kernel version, and then there's a bug in there. What can I do about it? I'm just maintaining a Python package. So I'm getting annoyed by these notifications. The main way of notifying from Openqa is RabbitMQ. We have MQP with RabbitMQ. There's a bus. You can subscribe to all the events. Some people already use that. Actually, I used that myself with an RSC bot. So the RSC bot is notifying me about some Openqa and Openqa tests. But the problem that I see with generalization...
By the way, there's also a matrix bot. Sorry for interrupting.
There's a matrix bot?
Yes.
Awesome. Will you present that in the next week workshop?
And it's not written by me. It's written by Martin Zieringhaus. I can post a link.
Oh yeah, that would be really interesting. There are ways of notifying. What we don't have is something like a filter in the web UI where you can select when it matches this and this, then I want to be subscribed. And I know it's a standing wish, but yeah, let's see.
One thing concerning the notifications, if you want to go down that route, please, in contrast to OBS, also send out emails that, or some other form of notifications that a test fixed itself again. Since OBS will tell you that stuff is broken, but usually it magically fixes itself after the moon phase changed. And you don't get notified about that. And that's super annoying.
Yeah.
So doing it that you also get an email that hey, your test failed, but your test is green again. That would be for instance because the investigate bot because a bot retried it.
Yeah. Right. This is also one more thing, and I would say it doesn't stop there, because if you have that, then the next step could be to say, well, if it was fixed, then I would like to know who or what fixed it, because otherwise, it happens again tomorrow, and what should I do then other than wait? This is again something that I try to address here by demanding a proper ticket reference, because only with a ticket, the ticket will not close itself. It would only be closed when someone closes it, and then we know who is the someone. And then we ask the someone, like, how was it fixed? Can you please, if not already done, give a really short sentence what you did to fix that. Okay. And
I have got a question in such a direction. I had a case with a soft fail where the bug was fixed and all needles were looking correctly, but the soft fail was available continuously. And when we had some discussions and the bug, yes, all is okay, you can remove the soft fail, but I wasn't able to identify the reason why that has existed continuously. So I thought I should remove the soft fail and the additional boot parameter, and then I have heard from Sergio that should be kept continuously, but I don't know how I can identify the reason that this soft fail has is happening continuously.
right. Okay.
The example is here. I created a pull request to revert my commit, and you can see now the soft fail here.
Yeah, I know the specific example. At least I was following the discussion, but I also cannot give you an easy answer. But it's good that you came up with soft failed. Sarah, I can offer that we can also discuss that in some minutes, like say after the meeting or some other time, and then maybe I have a specific idea. For now, I would like to be a bit more general and say, what do we have available to track failures? So,
Yes, I thought that would I don't know how to identify the reason, so
yes.
I need any process or anything how I can.
Okay, the simple hint is the following. A soft failure like this is always triggered from test code. So there must be a reference to this bug in the test code, and then the test code, maybe the test code does something like, if this command fails or pass, then record a soft failure. And as a general hint, the soft failures are meant for the very same purpose, to track failures. And soft failures are about the best way how one can track known issues, because they are self-describing, they are tracked in test code. We have git log, we have a history, why someone put that in, we know who changed that, and we can ask that someone, and we can read from the git commit message or the comments in the file why that is the case. If a soft failure is not available, then we can use a label carryover. That is in the case, like I have shown in before, where we have like this little flash icon or a bug icon, which we can copy paste onto jobs. If that doesn't work, there is auto-review. Auto-review works by specifying a regex in tickets, and then with the tickets we can reference the jobs that fail in multiple different scenarios. So especially if you have an error that can happen regardless of product or architecture or version, then auto-review is the way to go. If all of that fails and we have an issue that we haven't seen in before, then automatic investigation jobs are triggered. And I have received feedback from you and good ideas how we can change the integration. This should just provide you additional information at this point. There's no decision to handle the original job different than just adding a comment. For the sake of completeness, I would like to show you one more thing, which is the investigation tab, and I assume some people are not yet aware of that feature. Whenever a job fails, there is an investigation tab, and if you click that tab, then it's loading additional information comparing the current failure against the last good in the current scenario. Whatever is identified as current scenario, this is likely, like in this case, an older build or a previous job with older test code. And what we can see is the difference, the complete difference in the test settings. You can see here, for example, that the build changed. It also changes some other parameters like checksum of ISO, well, that's obvious. There's also some parameters like cache limit. This one is worker specific, but it's good to show that because maybe that is the reason why something fails in between. It shows a direct link to the last good, so we can go there and then we come to the job which was passed ago. We have a diff of all the needles. So for example, some needles had been newly created since the job originally was working. There is a git log of the same with git hashes from the needle repository. And then there's the same for tests. So we can see the difference in test code of showing all the files that changed, including a log. And all is expandable, so can be the case that it's a bit more in a bit longer list. Yeah, so all this should also provide additional information where then you should be able to, let's say, either fix the issue faster or be able to implement a workaround in a faster way. All right, so it's minute 55. Enough of talking of my side. I'm happy to help some of you for specific details, but I would be happy if you have any more comments or questions now to bring it up. If there are no specific questions for auto-review or openqa-investigate, the idea for this workshop is that for now I would offer it weekly, and that means next Friday in the same time slot you can have the possibility to join here. I know there are always conflicts with other events going on. This should really have some workshop character. Now I presented a bit more, but I would be happy to have, let's say, really open discussion for any points or users helping other users, and I have no problem to rediscuss the same thing again or show individual users, individual features, even if you have presented them in before. So you're welcome to bring up all questions, all notes, feature ideas, feedback. I'm already appreciating and thank you very much for the ideas that you gave, how to improve that specific feature set that I brought up here. Okay, so I'm still here for the next minutes. Thank you all for attending. I will also stop the recording and see how I can make that available if it turned out any good. And besides that, thank you all and see you soon.